late afternoon. Okay, so that means we are going to go back to the topic that we haven't finished, and you may recall we were looking into service operations, right? You remember what we discussed about service operations? So one thing which was very important in terms of service operations is that the customer is an integral part of the process of delivering the goods and services, right? So the customer itself is the input in the process. The customer itself is the resource that we are transforming, okay? We also discussed that I don't want to say problematic, but there are some, having customers in part of the process brings in much more variability in comparison to manufacturing processes. Okay, so this is one key difference that we have. Okay, and then if you guys call services, we have three different types of processes. One type of process was professional service, if you may recall. Then we had service shops, and then we had mass services, right? So these were the three main types of services that we have in service operations, right? And we depicted the differences between those three different types of services, again, through volume of demand and variety of the service offering that we have. Do we have only one specific type of service that we offer, or do we accommodate and have multiple offerings of services that we have? Okay. This is where we left it, and you may or may not recall that let me just share the screen, that we ended it here. Can you guys see my screen all right? I suppose, right? So this is where we left it yesterday, right? So it is the same what we already discussed in manufacturing services, just transferred it and applied it to service processes, right? We also made the distinction between back end and front end service processes. Right, you recall that, what we discussed there. So the front end processes of the customer's back end processes is what we to some extent can hide from the customers, right? So if you think about, I don't know, Disney World, the front end offices would be the services regarding you taking the ride, you buying the tickets, where it is, and the back end offices would be maybe the servicing of the rides during the night, the cleaning up of Disney World during the night. So these are front end and back end offices, right? And we put forward to the front end processes that create and add value from a customer perspective, right? You also recall that we discussed that measuring the adding value is much more difficult for service processes than for manufacturing processes. Because imagine you go and watch a movie, right? If you go to the cinema, your friend may really enjoy that movie, but you think the movie is maybe boring or something, right? It's the experience itself in sitting in the cinema, being there, you watch the same movie, you might even drink the same soft drink, have the same popcorn, is similar between you and your friend. But in the end, when you exit the service process, i.e. you exit the cinema, you have a much more different perspective on how much value you got out of the experience, right? That's when we talk about services, we talk about experiences, right? Experiences versus products, right? So here we talk about experiences. And you may or may not recall that we started yesterday's class with the service concept. And in the service concept, we have a lot of information and bullet points on subjective measures, such as emotions. So whilst going to Alton Towers, what we saw yesterday, might for somebody going to on a ride might be thrilling and fun. For somebody else, it might have been the person might get sick, right, and not enjoy it at all, right? So it is always individual to the customer and the customer experience. That's why we talk about experiences, right? So that was a bit of a recap of what we done yesterday. Okay. Sorry about the background noise. That's just cleaning robot that drives around. I closed the door, but you can still hear it. I apologize for that. Okay. Then we started discussing this, right? And I want you to maybe put yourself in a position of, I just give an example, we had it yesterday, of going and entering a Starbucks, right? Starbucks, and then think about ordering coffee, right? We talked about how we can manage arrival variability, right? You recall what we said, how doctors, for example, manage arrival variabilities? What did we say when you go to a doctor's? What do you usually have to do? How do we manage arrival variability, right? Anybody recalls? Through appointments, right? So not that everybody comes at 8 o'clock before work or at 6 o'clock afterward, so that we try to schedule appointments throughout the day so that the demand is equal to the capacity. The capacity being the rooms, the doctors available, the nurses available, right? Or the machines, the medical equipment available. Now, you may also make parallels to how restaurants work, right? How do restaurants manage arrival variability? You have to book a table, right? For example, depending on the type of restaurant that you're going to go to. Similar, arrival variability is generally there to manage queues, right? So queues are basically the backlog of service processes. If you think about, you have the restaurant or the doctor, and the queues behind it is the WRP or the raw material, the customer, right? The inventory that we are trying to process, right? Now, let's go back to the Starbucks example, right? How does Starbucks manage, for example, request variability? Or even McDonald's, what did we say yesterday? How do these restaurants or coffee places manage request variability? How do they manage it? So let's say, thank you, Xinglam, but think about accommodating versus refusing, right? How does McDonald's deal with request variability? How does McDonald's deal with this? What do you think, guys? How does McDonald's deal with request variability? two ways, right? On one hand, you may say that McDonald's has a limited menu, and we can only order what's on the menu, right? We cannot say, but today I want a burger with the chicken burger combined with a beef burger, and I want to combine it with lettuce, tomatoes, and with, I don't know, pickles, right? Would McDonald's in this case accommodate my order, or what would they do? What would they do? Would they accommodate my order if I say I want a combination of a chicken and a beef burger, and I want these specific things on that burger? Would they accommodate or refuse? If you go to a McDonald's and ask such a specific question, they would refuse, right? Because they are on the low end, right? That means they are a fast food restaurant. Being a fast food restaurant, it would go against their operational performance objectives, right? Remember what we said yesterday, right? McDonald's focuses on efficiency and quality, standardization, and to achieve on-time delivery, right? So that's why they would refuse. But then, as Xing Lam already said, they might cook you something to order, right? So they would accommodate. There would be a different restaurant. But generally, in order to manage request variability, we have some things called menus, right? So on the menus, then we would write what we have, right? Now, what means capability variability then? That refers to the extent that customers are trained in these service processes. Now, that's why I thought and prompted you to think about Starbucks, right? So ordering a coffee at Starbucks can be quite complicated, right? I have multiple choices to be made, right? I need to think about the type of coffee I want. I need to think about the size of the coffee, right? I need to think about what kind of milk do I want? Do I want cow's milk? Do I want non-dairy milk? Do I want full fat? Do I want skimmed milk? Whatever I want, right? And then do I want this to be hot or to be cold, right? So there are multiple decisions to be made. And then think about sometimes when you stand at the Starbucks and you order a McDonald's and somebody's in front of you. For some, it may take 15 seconds to place the order. For some, it may even take like 3 minutes because they are not so accustomed to make these decisions, right? So this is what we refer to as capability variability. And then the fourth one is the effort variability. That means how much effort does the customer put in the service process? Because think about it. When we are entering a service process, we as a customer also have to work. So think about, for example, you have to do your tax returns and you have a tax consultant, right? That helps you with your income taxes and all your expenditures and the taxes you have to pay for the previous year, right? Now, you can just dump the box of all the receipts to your tax consultant, or you can do the pre-sorting and date it and already put a list and Excel sheet about all there is. So on one hand, you place the effort in and helping and speeding up the process. On the other hand, you don't. Another form of effort variability that's maybe closer to you and me would be if you think about you want to go to a restaurant, but before going to the restaurant, you check out the menu online, or you even place the order online before you pick it up and book your table. So you then take and execute the process beforehand. So you put the work in order to help that organization, right, to speed up the process, to reduce variability. But at the same time, you actually benefit from it, because then when you enter the restaurant, you reduce your level of stress. You may even reduce the waiting time. You may even reduce or increase the service experiences. That's very much related if you think about it. You can go to a restaurant without making a booking, right? And if you go then to the restaurant, it may mean that you have to wait. You will not know for sure when you will see or get the table. Whilst if you make the booking of the table beforehand, you reduce this form of variability. So, in conclusion, there is, there is a benefit for reducing variability, not only from an operations perspective to increase efficiency, but also from a customer perspective, right? To increase the service experience. Okay. And then the last point here, what we have is called the subjective preference variability. Now, this is a bit more tricky, as I said. This then depends on what are the subjective preferences from the customer's perspective, right? Do I prefer my coffee to be stronger or less strong? Do I prefer my coffee to be more flowery, or do I want it to be bitter, right? These are subjective preferences. Do you prefer your burger to be well cooked, medium rare? Subjective preference variability. You can have then make the decision as a company. Do I want to accommodate those behaviors or desires? And then the last point is the desires, right? And not the behaviors. Or do I refuse to accommodate them? Generally, with an increase in customer service level, with an increase in the markup of the service, so the more I go into a more luxury service territory, the more I need to accommodate, right? Whilst when I offer something very basic, I have no option other than to refuse it. Because whenever I accommodate customer behavior or request special customization, I induce or have to induce flexibility in the process. When I induce flexibility in the process, I induce variability in the process. When I do so, I lose generally efficiency. So I need to find ways to not lose this efficiency, right? And that's what I'm doing in services. But when I refuse to accommodate variability and try to drive out the variability out of the process, I want to make the service process more efficient, right? Think about, again, the example of a McDonald's, okay? That's the difference. You guys understand? Did you get the differences? Yeah, I think they are very interesting, right? And maybe they are easier to relate to than as the manufacturing processes are, because we are still in a trade-off between cost versus flexibility. That's what we are at. And that is the same how we design our processes, right? That's what we have here. Recall this. So I am more likely to accommodate variability, so desires, behavior, here in professional services than in mass services. In mass services, I try to standardize, right? And then whatever is in between. Okay, mass services are designed towards the performance objective of cost efficiency. Professional services are designed towards the performance objective flexibility. Okay, so that does not mean that whenever I'm looking at mass services, my customer service levels are lower or higher in comparison to here. Because if we think about how do we define customer service, right? Customer service and customer service level, let's say I have a customer service level of 97%. What does it mean having a customer service level of 98% here as an example? What does it mean? What do you think, guys? What does it mean having a high customer service level of 98%? What could that mean? What do you think, guys? What do you think? That basically means, let's say you have 100 customers a day. 98 out of 100 customers are satisfied. That's what it means. And you can be satisfied because you get the burger on time, the restaurant is clean. You can be satisfied because it is very cheap. Or you can be satisfied because you get an excellent private wealth consultancy, right? So it always, you have to extrapolate the customer service level to your operational objectives. How, again, do we add value to the customer, right? So McDonald's adds value to the customer very different than, for example, a 3-star Michelin restaurant, what we said, right? One adds the value because of on-time delivery, remember what we said yesterday, and having consistent quality and being relatively cheap. The other one looks at quality from an excellence perspective, right? So we always need to view that in the light of the strategy, right? And with services, that is very important, right? How do we design our service processes in order to get high degrees or levels of customer service? Okay, now let's continue. Okay, now we know all this, we know the types of variability. I'm generally more inclined to accommodate forms of variability when I'm at service processes that are geared towards more flexibility. What we said earlier on, we try to accommodate this, right? So we have certain performance objectives that we do not have on the other hand, right? So now, what we have not discussed with is that the people are entering the system from a customer perspective, but the people are also entering the system service active, right? So the service providers are then generally it's a people-based business. Now things get more automated, but still there are waiters, there are cooks, there are people working in the bank, there is somebody that cuts your hair, there is the person that sells you the coffee, there's the barista that makes the coffee, yada, yada, right? These are the service providers. And they are under pressure from two sides, right? From the customer side to meet the customer expectation, and from the organizational side to meet the organizational expectations, right? We need to think about the nature of the task, the design of the task, how do we measure the performance of the customer, how do we reroute those customers, right? And the customer pressure is then the expectation, the intensity of the contact, what is the mood of the customer, what is the customer competency, right? And then there are obviously issues if some of these jobs are low-skilled jobs, so there are motivational issues, role clarity, fit, relationship risk, and stress. And there are potential outcomes that could hinder your performance, right? So the question is, how do we deal with these conundrums, right? So here you see some bullet points. These are more related to HR perspective, but nonetheless important because the transforming part in this process is the service provider, right? So we need to manage those service providers through leadership. We sometimes go the teamwork and teamwork across the organization, clarifying and specifying the roles, using scripts, defining appropriate level for the employee discretion, right, and establish effective communication involving employees and performance improvement and encouraging ownership of customer and processes. Okay. Okay, now let's discuss this before we take a little break. Now, this is very important. Think about you entering a McDonald's, right? Before you enter that restaurant, you have certain expectations, right? You expect what we saw in the video yesterday, that you get your meal delivered in 60 seconds, right? As an example. You expect to pay a certain price, right? You expect to have certain items on the menu, right? And you expect that it tastes the same as last time. So the taste is conformed. You also expect that the restaurant might be clean, right? You expect that the queues are managed, okay? These are your expectations. The expectations you have are before you enter that restaurant. And then there is the service delivery from the service provider. And then after that, you make up your mind, right? These are your perceptions, right? So E stands for expectations. S, or P, sorry, I made a mistake. P stands for perceptions. Now, I have three scenarios. My expectations could have been, for example, higher than my perceptions, or my expectations could have been lower than my perception, or my expectation equalize my perception, right? These are three options that I can have. Which one would a company would like to have? Would it want to be in scenario 1, 2, or 3? Where would a company likely want to be? In which scenario? That we meet it, right? Now, imagine you are Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, there's an incentive for you that you exceed the expectations, right? So that when a customer then checks out in the morning, you want the customer to be overwhelmed, full with joy, having a beautiful night in a beautiful hotel, right? Now, think about now you as a customer. Where would you like to be as a customer? Here, here, or here? When would you say, I am satisfied? Where would you be satisfied? Scenario 1, 2, or 3. Where would you be satisfied? Three and 2. First one, you would be dissatisfied. So we can talk about degrees of satisfaction, right? You can be like over the moon, happy, and it was the greatest service experience ever. Or you could be, yeah, it was all right. That burger tasted all right. Okay, so there can be degrees. again, the degree of satisfaction then depends on what am I focusing on as a company? What are my operational performance objective I'm focusing on? Do I want to achieve excellence and quality? Then I might even try to overwhelm my customer and that the customer is then super happy, right? What is important is that there are expectations and that there are perceptions. Now, quick question. Can I manipulate the expectations of my customers? Do I have any tools or practices where I can change the expectations of my customers? What do you think? What would change your expectations? Yes, there are multiple ones, but what do you think? What could affect my expectations? What do you think? Come on, guys. What could affect the expectations? No, before. Think about the process. So we are before my expectation. Now, I know what you mean, but let's go to this afterwards. Now, expectation can be guided by the price, right? So meaning that if something is very expensive, your expectations are higher than if you buy something very cheap, right? Now, similar to what Xing Lam said, I can be guided by previous experiences, right? So meaning that you have been to that restaurant before, so you have a reference point how it used to taste, right? And you want this to be the same or even better, right? Similar to my previous experiences, I could also think about, I guess, ratings, about things such as TripAdvisor or whatever you think about it, or the ratings you get on Amazon, the ratings you get on Airbnb and things like this, right? So you see how others have assessed that service and what were their experience, what were their level of expectations. Okay. Another one is basically through marketing claims. They say, okay, you purchase this car, you do not need to service this car for the next 10 years. You purchase this car, you have the coolest car, it will drive up to 300 kilometers per hour, whatever. These are marketing claims. Or you purchase this iPhone 13, you will have a really good camera, whatever it needs. So these are then marketing claims that guide your expectations, right? And guiding your expectations, going high end or low end, will then ultimately decide on whether my customers are satisfied or not. Whether my customers, check out this definition, right? Customer satisfaction is then the result of the customer's assessment of a service based on the comparison of their perception of the service delivery with your expectations. Okay, so I go through the process, I enter that restaurant, experience my night in the restaurant, then I make up my mind, did I like it or not? And then I compare it as a reference point. I compare it to my expectations, and then I can make the judgment. Were my expectations higher than my perception? My perceptions were higher than my expectations. Were they equal? So do I assess this as being satisfied or not satisfied? And the expectations, as I said, can be guided, right? I have it in the next slide here. What are the key influences of them? The price. What we haven't had here is the alternatives available. So let's say You were driving a BMW, now you want to switch to a Mercedes. How do they compare with each other? The marketing, right? The claims that I have, word of mouth. Your friend has been to the restaurant, previous experience you have been to the restaurant before. What are your mood attitudes that also affect the expectation? And to what extent are you confident in that service experience, right? Okay, so let's take a quick break, a tea break of 20 minutes, and then we'll discuss the case that we had to do yesterday. Okay, so I see you guys back at, now we need to recalculate again. Let's see, 9 is at, I don't know if this is correct. 4:40, is that correct? Or am I way off here? I see you guys, is that correct? I don't know. I want 20 minutes and I try. You see? Thank you, Xinglam. I see you guys in 20 minutes. Okay? Let's have a quick coffee break, tea break. Thanks.
Abangan mo na lang kapag Martir. Pag may class kasi ako, hindi ako makakapag-play. Kailangan ko kasi yung laptop ko for my class. Abangan mo na lang pag may lapagan at dikitan ako. Mary Jane, thank you, Mary Jane.
Okay, so we continue, guys? Are we ready to continue? Yes, no? Okay, so these were the key influences of customer expectations. So recall, we discussed this, right? And the different we have there, right? Generally, this model, what we just discussed, is called the gap model of quality. Okay, it's a very famous model of quality management. You will see this model again in the quality management class with the local lecturer, right? And then there are gaps. And here the gap that we discussed is between expectations and perceptions, right? So here you see reasons for the gap. There can be internal causes and external causes. So there are gaps between expectations and the service delivery. That's gap number 2. Gap between service delivery and the perception, right? So a gap between expectations and service delivery. So lack of understanding of, let's say, inappropriate specification of the customer expectation, poor service design, insufficient resources, external causes, inappropriate expectation of the service experience or the outcome. And then here, the second one then is the delivery and the perception. Let's say the incorrect delivery, staff was unfriendly, restaurant was not clean or whatever, or external causes, inappropriate perception of the service experience and or outcome. Okay, these were then the key influences of the expectations that we have. And then here in this cloud, you see some of the key service quality factors, right? They are related to the customer experience, right? Security, courtesy, communication, commitment, comfort, functionality, attentiveness, aesthetics, whatever that is, okay? These factors then can be categorized into this matrix, right? And the matrix has 2 dimensions. The potential to delight So this factor has the potential to make the customer really happy, or this factor has the potential to make the customer really unhappy, right? So if there's and that can differ, right? Now, if you have, for example, something to delight the customer is very high and the potential that this satisfy the customer is very high, these are critical factors, right? Or you have hygiene factors. These are the ones you have to get right, okay? You will not win or increase your market share, but you have to be right in these ones. And then there are factors that do not really unnecessarily affect the customer. There can be, I don't know, anything regarding back office processes, or let's say in Hong Kong, whether you have a parking space or not, most customers will come, I don't know, via public transport. And then there are enhancing factors that can be there that do not necessarily dissatisfy the customer, but they have the potential to delight the customer. And then think about when you have categorized them as a company, where do you place more emphasis on? The critical factors, right? And the enhancing factors. Success of yes depends then on the offering, the funding mechanism, the employee management system, and the customer management system. We'll discuss this. So we put the pieces together here in what it's called the service profit chain. So similar to, I guess, a supply chain or a value chain, we have the service profit chain. That goes from internal service quality on the left side until the revenue goes and the profitability. And what does it go through? So internal service quality, it's the design, how I design my service processes based on the workplace design, job design, employee selection, and employee rewards, and tools for servicing the customer. These make the employee satisfied. So if we say the employees are more satisfied, they become more productive and are more associated to the employer and stay in the organization, right? But this internal service quality then translates into external service quality, right? These are the results for the customer, right? So if we have satisfied employees, it's more likely that we will gain satisfied customers. And then similar to what we said, employee retention, so that employees want to continue work for our organization, the customers became loyal. Retention, repeat business, referral. And that then translate into not only focusing on efficiency, but growing in market share through growing in revenue and the profitability. Okay, this is called the service profit chain. Okay. Now, remember we did this. I asked you to do this or work on the case study, which was basically the design house, right? I don't know if you recall this or not. Have you had the time to read the case yesterday? The design house case? Yes, no, no, yes, yes. That is good. Now, in the design house case, we had basically 3 interrelated questions. But the first question was regarding why was operations management important to CDS? So what did you guys identify in the first question? Where was operations management important for the success of CDS? What do you think? They increase the efficiency. So if you think about the design process, it's a process in itself, right? And they were able to increase the efficiency in order to do multiple changes, right? They focus from to concepts, right? And in the second stage, from concept to design house partnership, right? And then they were talking about the manufacturing operations where they did the models and then the design of the products. And also with regards to the planning and distribution services. Okay. What do you think about the 4 V's profile for this company, right? Remember the 4 V's: volume, variety, variation in demand, and visibility. Now go the first one. Is volume high or low for this company? What would you say in terms of their output? Is it high or low? If we look at the first one. What would be your evaluation here? High or low? High, right? So we say relatively high. No, that's what they do. What about variation or variety? Let's do variety firstly. Variety of the output. Is it high or low? What do you think? Yeah, I would somehow place it in the middle, right? But they are focusing on being more efficient. I agree with you. What about variation in demand? Is it high or low? Or was it relatively low, right? And what about visibility? We have to think, well, they discussed more about the back-end processes, but I would say the visibility, I would put it in medium, right? So then you could profile it when we say the volume is relatively high, the variety is relatively low, variation in demand is relatively low, and the visibility would be more or less in the medium side. Now, what would you recommend to a company if they asked you to advise them in improving their operations, right? So, firstly, they need to do a strategic assessment, right? Whether we have an alignment, we said, between corporate strategy and process design, right? That's what we discussed here at the beginning of the class. Now, secondly, we can then look into process performance. So if we talk about process performance, we can look into efficiency and effectiveness, right? And then thirdly, they can go up, right? They can look at the supply chain. And then in the supply chain, they can also go into strategy and efficiency. And then if they want to go further, they can go into the supply network, okay? Meaning that an organization has more than one supply chain. And then again, they can look into the efficiency and the strategy. And then they also can then, after this assessment, look into potential areas of improvement and continuous improvement programs, right? Such as, I don't know, Lean, TQM, Six Sigma, whatever that means, we will discuss this, okay? That could be an answer for the case, okay? Now, this was all there was for session number 3, okay? Now, what would be great to remember from this session for the exam is this, right? The 3 different types of processes, right? The professional service, service shops, and the mass services, right? It would also be great if you can remember the 5 types of variability that we have here, like the arrival variability, request, capability, variability, effort, and subjective preference, variability. Okay. It would also be good if you could remember this gap model of quality, and specifically the gap model of service quality, right? The expectation, service delivery, perception, and then the customer expectations. Okay. Right, that was it. Okay, let me close it down. If there are any questions regarding session 1, 2, and 3, so that was basically the first block that we did. Any questions, remaining concerns, or anything? Yes, no, no, yes, no response. So far, no. I like to hear that. Okay. Then let's go to the next exercise. Okay. And what we're going to do now, we have the lecture, but before we start with the lecture, we're going to do an exercise, right? This is an exercise you guys tend to really like, okay? That's why we did the break a little bit earlier, okay? Now, this exercise only works when you do it in a group, okay? So it would be great if you guys could work in a group, okay? Now, the exercise is designing or redesigning a shopping cart. Think about going to the supermarket and you know these shopping cart or shopping baskets, right? Now, can you get together in groups and basically redesign the shopping cart? Okay. Now, we need a project leader. You are experts in project management, and the project leader will manage the team. Your task is to redesign an ordinary traditional shopping cart. No, you will not get 2 hours. I apologize for this. This was when we were doing it in person. In 1 hour, okay? This is a tough task, okay? So what you need to do, you need to identify all the tasks that is involved to do so, right? You need to assign roles to the team member. Then you need to conduct the market research that is there. And then you need to develop and pitch your results, okay? Now, how do you pitch your results? How many people are we today? Let me see. We are 20 people, right? Can you get together in, I don't know, 4 or 5 groups, whatever you want? You can do the group size, I don't mind. Okay, but can you get together? And as an output, I would like to see from each of the group, you can just use a piece of paper and draw the shopping cart how you would ideally design it, right? You can present it or I can present it for you, right? But I would like you to send me something, right? You can use the chat to share something, use SharePoint, whatever you want, okay? But I want something in 1 hour. So you have 1 hour time. Now it is 5 o'clock. Can you deliver your pitch in 1 hour? Okay, so that would mean have no camera. Can you not take a picture from your phone and just email it to me? Maybe you just email. Can you email to me? Is that possible? So you can just use this. I mean, it's just for us to discuss, right? Just take a picture and email to me. That's all you need to do. Can you guys do that? Yes? That would be really great. I would appreciate that. Because then we can have a little bit more fun on this. So now it's 5 p.m., right? Now it's 5 p.m. So can you deliver what you have at 5:50? Okay, and then we just, did I calculate this correctly, Shinglam? Yes or no? You need to let me know. Now it's 5, I think, right? Yes, right? So take 50 minutes and redesign the shopping cart. Okay? Just think about what you need to do and what are the tasks involved in there, and think about yourself going to the supermarket. How should it ideally look like? Okay? So take 50 minutes and then we'll discuss. You can email it directly to me. You can use this email. It's easier for me. Take my salad email, right? Just email it to me and then I got it. You can also use the UCD email address. I don't mind. Okay? Just email me a picture. Okay? Can you guys do that? Say yes. Yes? Yes, I think so. Okay? That's a fun exercise. There's no right or wrong. Just try to come up with a better version as we have now. Okay? Good luck, guys.
Therefore,
Okay, guys, let's start. Okay, otherwise we won't have time for so the exercise was to design or to redesign the shopping cart, right? The shopping cart we all know. Normally, if I would be in Hong Kong with you, we would have gone to Causeway Bay, go to the supermarket, and check out the shopping carts and see how we can improve. Right? That was obviously not possible at the moment. So the part of conducting market research was online market, right? But I was just looking for a prototype and seeing you how you want to pitch this. Xing Lam, you've submitted, right? And basically, this is the one you've done, right? Let me. Can you see this? Right, I make it a little bit bigger, so then you can see. Okay. Is that a cat or is that a bear standing on this? Because I'm scared that it's like an animal. What is it? Ah, it's your cat. I don't even what the hell is this? Okay. Can I take the cat out of the picture? Right? Okay. So, here's what I see. Right? So I see it looks a little bit different to the ones that we have. I see we have like a very tall one, right? then there's a button, and then there's a top bar, right? Then you have a handling bar, and then you have the button. And then you have the... What's the reason why you make it so tall? Why do you make it tall, like almost? How is your okay, so instead rather than having long, you want it to be tall, and then put it. We have different compartments, so you put like, let's say, a refrigerated section and a section. Okay. If we go back, and I mean, we will discuss this in the session tomorrow. We will discuss the different stages we have in the product service. We have concept generation, concept screening, preliminary design, evaluation, improvement. Thinking about it like more like a process of improvement from uncertainty to uncertainty, right? So you could do the concept generation, you could do the brainstorming in your group, and then you screen the different options, right? Okay. If you have any more you would like to send me, send that to me. That would be great. I didn't get any. You don't think you've got any more. Okay. But if you want to share it with me, please do. Okay. There is a company which is a really cool company. It's a Silicon Valley company called IDEO. It still exists. You can check them out. Right? And they were faced with the same thing to redesign their shopping cart. There's a video about the design process, right? So I hop into this topic of design services because it's very much related to designing processes, right? Only that we're looking at the design of product and service, which is part of the operations management department, right? And that's going to be our next topic for tomorrow. But before, let's have a look at this video. I posted the link there, and there you see how IDEO, the company, manages the design process. Right? In operations, we generally have processes. There's a way to processes, and in scientific processes, right? The different types. And in terms of the design process itself, it's like a mixture, and you will see this. Now, check out this video. I think it's quite cool and interesting how they do it, and maybe you see some parallels of what you guys did in your group. It's not super long, but it's also not super short. Let me see if I can find this. Did I put the right one here? Let me put it here. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Let me just check IDEO shopping cart video. Okay, this is this one. Okay, it's this one here. Check it out. It's quite interesting.
What's that? Hi, Jared. We brought you here today to
see how this process relates to your process, guys.
It used to be that you deferred to the boss.
Is it the boss is always going to have the best ideas? Not likely.
Here, nimble fingers, alert minds, and tireless machines.
And it used to be in most companies that chaos was discouraged.
This is where the crazies live. This is where we do our work. It's different.
Good morning. Good morning.
Used to be you were supposed to climb the corporate ladder.
Status is who comes up with the best ideas, not who's the oldest, not who's been with the company longest, not who has that biggest title. If you go into a culture and there's a bunch of stiffs going around, I can guarantee they're not likely to invent anything.
You can stack this up big as you want.
That's great. Thanks a lot. We had a great time today.
Well, forget the way it used to be. Tonight, the deep dive. one company's secret weapon for innovation. A lot further along in cast near the end, as a matter of fact, you will hear one of the central characters suggest that we look around. The only thing that's not designed by anybody, he will say, is nature. Actually, you could say the same thing by observing that the only designs that don't require constant modification are the ones we find in nature. But the point is well taken. From the buildings in which we live and work to the cars we drive or the knives and forks with which we eat, everything we use was designed to create some sort of marriage between form and function. Does it work, and can we make it look interesting or attractive? What is truly amazing is how long we tend to put up with things that may not work particularly well or may look especially unattractive simply because we're accustomed to them and because no one has ever suggested redesigning those things. There's an interesting distinction between design and invention. Whoever came up with the idea of dental floss, for example, was an inventor, but the man or woman who put it inside that little plastic box that lets you tear off just the right length, that was a designer. Now, how does the process of designing a better product work? And would it be interesting to watch that process? When we first broadcast this program back in February, we weren't at all sure what you would think, but judging by the number of you who ordered video cassettes of the program and the number who contacted the industrial product design firm that is featured in this program, you liked it a lot. Here was the premise of the program. We went to IDEO, the product design folk, and said, take something old and familiar, like, say, the shopping cart, and completely redesign it for us in just 5 days. ABC News correspondent Jack Smith tells us what happened next.
9 in the morning, day one, and these people have a deadline to meet.
So welcome to the kickoff of the shopping cart project.
This is Palo Alto, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, and these are designers at IDEO, probably the most influential product development firm in the world. Designers are the reason TVs have screens, chairs, 4 legs, and toothbrushes nowadays, those squishy handles. In fact, it was IDEO that designed those squishy handles. IDEO has a 25-foot mechanical whale in the movie Free Willy, and the first computer mouse for Apple. Smith ski goggles, Nike sunglasses, NEC computer screens. Hundreds of products we take for granted.
This is called the Neat Squeeze toothpaste tube, which you invented that.
The man who runs IDEO is Dave Kelly, a Stanford engineering professor, the Groucho Marx mustache, a data genius, and an approach to innovation that usually works.
Oh, thank you, Fred.
But not always.
I can show you some products that failed. Came up with this idea called monster shoes, where you take these little monsters and lace them into your shoes like this. And we built a bunch of them, and I didn't want those either. So
Mostly what IDEO designs, though, does work, and it works very well. Dave and his design teams create about 90 new products every year.
the point is that we're not actually experts at any given area. You know, we're kind of experts in the process of how you design stuff. So we don't care if you give us a toothbrush, a toothpaste tube, a tractor, a space shuttle, you know, a chair. It's all the same to us. We want to figure out how to innovate by using our process, applying it.
And so for the next 5 days, the team will apply that process to bringing the supermarket shopping cart into the 21st century.
I think first we should maybe all acknowledge that it's kind of insane to do an entire project in a week.
Project leader is Peter Skillman, a 35-year-old Stanford engineer. Project leader because he's good with groups, not because of seniority. He's only been at IDEO for 6 years. The rest of the team is eclectic, but that's typical here. Whitney Mortimer, Harvard MBA. Peter Coughlin, linguist. Tom Kelly, Dave's brother, marketing expert. Jean Fulton-Suri, psychologist. Alex Kazaks, 26, a biology major, who's turned down medical school 3 times because he's having too much fun at IDEO.
kids climbing up and doing this.
Kids don't do that.
Safety emerges early as an important issue.
22,000 child injuries a year, which is, and so they're hospitalized injuries. I mean, there are many others.
Not reported in the store, that's, you actually
No,
have to.
that's hospitalized.
Wow.
And theft. It turns out a lot of cars stolen.
You know, what is the average life of a car? Does it last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And how big is this theft thing?
10 a.m. As the team works, it becomes clear there are no titles here, no permanent assignments.
The other side says, it gives a lot of help, says, be safe.
Everyone appears to be equal, and they love to mock corporate America.
I'll give you status. I'll give you a big red ball on a post, and that says you're a big guy. You got a ball, you're a senior vice president. Plastic red ball, it's all the same. In a very innovative culture, you can't have a kind of hierarchy of here's the boss, the next person down, the next person down, the next person down, because it's impossible that the boss is the one who's had the insightful experience with shopping carts. It's just not possible.
According to Kelly, even employees who merely listen to the boss don't add that much either.
So you gotta hire people who don't listen to you. And that, I don't think corporate America wants to hear that right yet.
And I think we ought to start making those lists about the kinds of questions that we're gonna ask.
The team splits into groups to find out firsthand what the people who use, make, and repair shopping carts really think.
Okay, go. The problem with the plastic cart is the wind catches it. Yeah, and these things have been clocked at 35 across the parking lot.
Man,
That's actually a pretty good point.
The trick is to find these real experts, and so that you can learn much more quickly than you could by just kind of doing it in the normal way and trying to learn about it yourself.
From everything I read, these things aren't that safe either, you know? So probably the seat itself is gonna have to be redesigned.
What you're seeing here is the kind of social science, like anthropologists, you know, like you go and study tribes. What is it that they do that we can learn from that will help us design a better cart?
One of the interesting things for me is looking at how people really don't like to let go of the cart, except for the professional shopper, whose strategy is to leave the cart at various places.
In corporate America, many bosses like measure whether their people are, the good people or the people who are performing are the ones they see at their desk all the time. It couldn't be further from the truth. The people who are really getting the information are out here talking to the buzzes of the world, going to meet other experts, much more useful than sitting at your desk.
3:30 in the afternoon, and the group is back at IDEO. There is no letup.
each team is going to demonstrate and communicate and share everything that they've learned today. People went off into the four corners of the earth and are coming back with the golden keys to at 35 miles an hour traveling through a parking lot in the wind.
We were in the store, what, 2 hours? And it was truly frightening just to see the kind of stuff going on.
You got to designate some people to make damn sure that the store owner's point of view is represented.
After 9 straight hours, the team is tired. They call it a day.
So,
Very cool.
well, that's great. Thanks a lot. We had a great time today. Get together and start here.
Day 2 at the start of IDEO's unique brand of brainstorming. They call it a deep dive, a sort of total immersion in the problem at hand. IDEO's mantra for innovation is written everywhere. One conversation at a time. Stay focused. Encourage wild ideas. Defer judgment. Build on the ideas of others.
That's the hardest thing for people to do, is to restrain themselves from criticizing an idea. So if anybody starts to nail an idea, they get the bell.
The deep dive begins, and for the next few hours, the ideas pour out and are posted on the walls.
Oh, the blind, the privacy blind. Like when you're buying 6 cases of condoms, you know, when nesting is, it sort of has to nest. If it doesn't nest, we don't have a solution.
Velcro pants and Velcro seats for the kids, just drop them down there.
Like Velcro seats, Velcro pants for kids.
Yeah, see, you have to have some wild ideas, and then you build on those wild ideas and end up being better ideas than if you said, if everybody only came up with same things, kind of appropriate things, you'd never like have any points to take off to build a really innovative idea.
It's organized chaos.
Organized chaos. It's not organized. What it is it's focused chaos.
By 11 a.m., the group begins narrowing down the hundreds of ideas written or drawn on the walls. How? By voting for them.
Vote with your post-it, not with an idea that's cool, but with an idea that's cool and buildable. If it's too far out there and it can't be built in a day, then I don't think we should vote on it.
Why not have you be the judge? You're the boss.
Because I'm going to be wrong. It's the team that's able to really judge what the best idea.
Otherwise, ideas wouldn't come out.
That's right. Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of lone genius.
Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. If anything sums up IDEO's approach, that is it. That and the focused chaos that seems to go with it.
I take a point of view. I call it the sport utility vehicle cart.
It is noon. Worried that the team is drifting, what can only be called a group of self-appointed adults under Dave Kelly holds an informal side session.
We don't want to tell them what to build, or else we take away the benefit of the whole thing, right?
What needs should they optimize their solution? Yes.
The purpose is to refocus the deep dive.
Maybe we arbitrarily say 3 to 5 teams, 4 or 5 teams. 4 or 5 teams, and we give each team a need area. Hey, can we grab everybody over to the wall here? There has to be a command decision. It becomes very autocratic for a very short period of time in defining what things people are going to work on.
Like it or not, the team is told it will split into groups to build mock-ups, covering 4 areas of concern that have been identified. Shopping, safety, checkout, and finding what you're looking for.
I noticed that toward the end of the process, the adults took over.
Yeah, that's because we have no choice but to stop that cycle. I mean, there's if you don't work under time constraints, you could never get anything done because it's a messy process to go on forever.
While the team starts building prototypes, Dave Kelly takes me on a tour of the rest of IDEO.
What's happening in here is that's a client meeting. That's our first client meeting. That's the first time we've met with the client. So we haven't trained them yet. if we took them straight from there into a room where music was blaring and everybody was throwing Nerf darts at each other, that would be a little hard to take. So we're warming them up. But this is where the crazies live. This is where we do our work. It's different. You can tell whether a place is playful in about the first 15 minutes as you walk down the hall. Being playful is of huge importance for being. I mean, if you go into a culture and there's a bunch of stiffs going around, they're not. I can guarantee you, they're not likely to invent anything.
Invent anything like this futuristic-looking instrument for kids.
You sound great.
You always sound good.
You have to make it so that this can happen.
Whoa, is that a break?
No, it doesn't break.
There's a whole department at IDEO devoted to toys. Turns out to be one of its most profitable areas. Fun, too.
No matter what, if I get in trouble here, it's always a spiral.
At IDEO, they found that fresh ideas come faster in a fun place. Not only is the furniture on wheels to suit the needs of the moment, but people are encouraged actually to build their own work areas.
And they were designing this space and they said to me, we'd like to have, $4,000 extra in our budget for a DC-3 wing. And I said, DC, you have to have that? And they said, yeah, they have to have it. So that's a DC-3 wing. Piece of a DC-3 wing, yeah.
And that's just decor.
That's decor. That's ambiance. That says we're weird and we're proud of it.
Umbrellas on the ceiling to shade computer screens from direct sunlight. And bicycles on ropes to prevent clutter.
The first guy who hung a bike up on a thing, he didn't come to me and ask me. He didn't ask some facilities person whether it was okay. He tried it. And then, he waited and see if anybody complained. If nobody complained, another guy hung a bike up. And pretty soon, everybody's got their bikes up and nobody's complained, right? So it's that whole thing of trying to ask forgiveness, instead of asking permission. It's the way people come up with new ideas.
IDEO has such a reputation for innovation that client companies are increasingly asking Dave, not just for new products, but also to remake their corporate cultures. You may be looking at the workplace of the future here.
it's one thing to be able to do a product once in a while, but if you can build a culture and a process where you routinely come up with great ideas, that's what the companies really want. Okay, Peter, we're done.
Back at the shop, it is 6 o'clock. 4 cups are ready for showing.
Baskets also can be, if you think you will have more volume, baskets can be put in.
A modular shopping cart you pile hand baskets onto. A high-tech cart that gets you through the traffic jam at checkout.
That you could mount a scanner on the shopping cart so that you as the customer, as you pull it off the shelf, can scan each item.
One that's built around child safety, and another that lets shoppers talk to the supermarket staff remotely.
Yeah, working on the yogurt.
But the adults, again, decide more work needs to be done before the mock-ups can be combined into one last prototype.
Why don't we have all the carts come up here for a second?
I think you take a piece of each one of these ideas and kind of back it off a little bit and then put it in the design.
The design is still not there, but there's another motto at IDEO: fail often in order to succeed sooner. And some of the team will be up half the night trying to put together a design that finally does work.
So
it is day 5, and Dave Kelly has no idea what the final cart looks like. Only the team does.
if they kind of got their heads down, they don't look at me, I'm nervous. You know, if they say, wait till you see it, then I know we're in good shape. So I'm getting wait until you see it. I think that'll be good.
There it is! So we took the best elements out of each prototype, designed this entire cart in a day, and then this cart was fabricated in a day with an amazing team of people in our machine shop pulling this off, working in shifts throughout the night.
Well, I'm impressed.
So are we.
The cart, which is designed to cost about the same as today's carts, is different in every other way. Hand baskets that stack in a metal frame, and major improvements for all.
You just lift the handle up, you put the children in, and then you can close the handle right over them, and they instantly have some little bit of a work surface that they can play with.
What do you think?
Well, I'm very proud of the team. I think it's great.
Does this work for you?
Works for me great. It's also beautiful. I mean, let's take it over to a local supermarket and see what they say.
Yeah, it works really well.
The cart's wheels turn 90 degrees so it can move sideways. No more lifting up the rear in a tight spot. And you shop in a totally way.
Rather than taking your cart everywhere you go in the store, through a crowded store like this, much more efficient to take a small basket, rush around to where the particular shelves are, and come back and put them back. Put them here. And treat this as like a center for your shopping.
And with a high-tech scanner, so that in the future you skip the checkout traffic jam.
Here's how you would scan. Reach over, and I would scan it. If I want to accept that item, I would just press plus and then drop it in my basket.
But there is no basket here.
Why get rid of the big basket?
The basket is tyranny. The basket is tyranny because it's not really needed. If all your stuff ends up in bags, why need the basket in the first place?
Talk to me about theft.
There's no value in this cart without the basket because you can't carry anything. It's used to anybody. Can use it as a barbecue.
So it's not going to get stolen.
That's right.
So this ought to appeal to store owners.
Yes, I love it. I think it looks great.
At first, I was a little shocked, but I think you have some fantastic ideas here. It needs a little refining, but I think that it's great. I mean, we would want them.
It makes us feel great. And she also gave us some really good comments about how we can make this thing better.
Just wherever you are, look around. The only thing that's not designed by somebody is nature. So the trees are not designed by us, but everything you see, every light fitting, every flower vase, every scale, every stand for fruit, everything is designed, has to go through this kind of process. And they can do a better or a better or worse job of innovating or improving, but everything is designed. It has to go through this process.
It wasn't this effortless, oh my God, so that's how it works thing that I saw there. It was actually hard work.
It's a lot of hard work. We all love it, so it doesn't look like it's hard work, but it's a lot of hours.
A lot of hours. Also, an open mind, a boss who demands fresh ideas be quirky and clash with his, a belief that chaos can be constructive, and teamwork, a great deal of teamwork. And these are the recipe for how innovation takes place. This is Jack Smith for Nightline, Palo Alto, California.
Right. So that was it. I don't know if you saw some similarities with how you designed your shopping trolley. I think it gives. I know the video is a bit dated, and you see some of the ideas are probably not as new anymore. For example, that you have a shopping trolley where you have the carry-on baskets, for example, or that you have a scanner. If you think about the future store of Amazon and all these things, but it's about the process, right? And I prompted here in the chat the questions, think about if this is still a process or not, right? It seems like chaotic, but it's not. And we will discuss tomorrow that it is sort of a funnel, right? A funnel where you have all these ideas at the beginning, and you see senior management team takes over, and then you come to a prototype, right? You select some, and then you end up with a prototype. So I think it is quite an interesting topic, and we will follow up and do a deep dive on how we design the process of designing products and designing services, okay? Now, for the remaining of the class, for the last hour, I put up a case here, okay? Now, this case, I want to stress to you, is very important because it's very, very exam relevant. This is the only thing I say about this. You can make up your mind what that means. So, the text or the case is called Developing Savory Roasty Crisps at Dredo Dance, okay? So it's a food item, right? And they have snacks, like server snacks, whatever it is. And they want to develop some new savory potato cookies, right, or chips, right? Here you have the case, which I uploaded on the Moodle page, right? This one, it didn't change about, but here you see the questions, right? And could you please work on these 4 questions? And you can work in teams, right? The same teams that you had earlier on, or different teams, up to you. So first question, how would you rank the innovation objectives for the project? What are the key issues in resourcing this innovative process? What are the main factors influencing the resourcing decision? And what advice would you give Monica, who is the main protagonist in this hour to work on this case? Do you guys all find this case in the Brightspace My Learning area? Have you found it? Just one needs to say yes. If you found this here, it's underneath the PowerPoints. Yes, no, no, yes. Hello. I wait, no worries. Yes, it's there, right? Now, you take this last hour and work on it, and then we'll discuss this tomorrow afternoon, okay? Okay, guys, thank you very much. It was a pleasure again to work with you today. And yeah, tomorrow we're gonna dive deep into designing products and processes, right? Thank you very much, guys. It was nice to see you, and I see you guys tomorrow at the same time. Thank you. See you tomorrow, and good luck with the case. Thank you.